So in 1926, when they founded the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, theirs was the first all-black union in the United States. The porters, like most groups, had their own language. They had their own network of stories. The Phantom Death Train, known in railroad language as the 1159, was a kind of story that the porters might share. Boys, they tell me that Daddy Joe could walk down the center of the coach and let down berths on both sides of the aisle. And those men knew that for Daddy Joe to accomplish such a feat, he had to have been superhuman. But that was it. To those men, Daddy Joe was as much a hero as Paul Bunyan was to the lumberjacks of the northwestern forest. But when the 1159 pulled up to his door, as big and as strong as Daddy Joe was, well, even he couldn't escape the 1159. And Lester eyed one of the young porters whom he knew had never heard the story of the porter's death train. All us porters got to board that train one day. When you hear the 1159, you've got exactly 24 hours to get your earthly life in order. And boys, ain't no way to escape your last ride on the 1159. And then in the fearful silence, he heard it off in the distance. He heard a train whistle, or he thought he did, and he strained his ears. And when he strained his ears, he heard it again, and this time it was the same as the night before, and he answered it with a groan, and he could hear time ticking away in his head. And gas leak or not, he lit a match to check the time, and the time was 11:57. And though there was no gas explosion, a tiny explosion erupted in Lester's heart. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Lester could hear the time. He could hear the train pulling heavier and heavier, and Lester strained to move, but he felt fastened to the chair. Just a little more time, just a little more time. Tick-tock, tick-tock. But time had run out. And Lester's mind reached for an explanation that made sense. But then reason failed him when the glowing phantom dressed in the porter's blue uniform stood there before Lester, helping him out of the fogginess of his confusion. It's your time, old partner. And now Lester stood up. And when he stood up, he was freed. And when he was freed, he stood in the peaceful calm of his own glow, and he thought he recognized the voice. Tip, Tip, is that you? It's me, old buddy. Come to tell you that you can't escape your last ride on the 1159. I know, Tip, I know, but I had to try. I can dig it, Lester. So did I. That'll just leave Willie Beavers, won't it? Not for long, Lester. We're picking him up next week. Tip, I'm ready. And with the single beam of the headlight, and with the deafening blast of the train whistle, that engine tore through the front of Lester's apartment, splintering wood, shattering glass, collapsing everything in its path, including Lester's heart. In 2 days running, when Lester did not show up at the shoeshine stand, his friends went by to check on him. And when they entered his apartment, Lester was lying on the floor. His eyes were wide open, and they were placed on his watch, and the time was 11:59.